What if I told you that a leak circulating right now claims the Iraqi dinar might already have a secretly prepared rate shift waiting for the right moment, and that insiders like Jim George and Frank26 are hinting that this alleged RV-related document wasn't supposed to reach the public at all, yet somehow it did, triggering shockwaves inside the dinar community and demanding immediate attention from every viewer who wants to stay ahead of the truth. Before we go deeper, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on all notifications because what you're about to hear is something you won't easily find in mainstream discussions, and every update matters when rumors, reports, and analyst reactions move this fast. Now, the most intense part of today's unfolding conversation comes from the claim that an internal communication reportedly referencing potential rate preparation procedures was accessed by individuals who believe it connects directly to long-anticipated revaluation expectations, prompting Jim George and Frank26 to analyze it in a late-night breakdown that has now been shared across multiple investor groups worldwide. What they emphasized was not that a revaluation is confirmed, but that the language inside the leak seems unusually specific, using terms commonly associated with transitional monetary steps the CBI has historically used during previous currency adjustments, and this alone ignited debate among analysts who follow central bank activity and financial strategy inside Iraq. The reason this drew such massive attention is because only a few days earlier, the CBI had performed a series of behind-the-scenes system calibrations that some believed were routine, while others argued the timing felt too close to ongoing policy discussions between Baghdad and international financial partners. Meanwhile, Delta released a new hint on his platform that suggested a potential IQD rate signal might have already been observed in early-stage banking channels, though he clarified that it was not yet reflected publicly, and this caused a surge of speculation about whether the alleged leak and Delta's message were referring to the same internal movement. What's compelling is that the tone across veteran analysts was noticeably more focused than usual. Instead of dismissing the leak as noise, several noted that Iraq's recent meetings with global market observers, its steps toward reducing cash-based systems, and its push for electronic banking all align with deeper structural preparation that might naturally require testing different rate displays internally. At the same time, economic observers inside Iraq have been pointing out that the country is pushing heavily toward compliance with international financial standards, meaning any change in value, whether small or large, would first need to be visible in internal systems long before reaching public charts, making the idea of an internal-only rate test not entirely unrealistic. Adding more fuel to the fire, influences such as Iraq's gradual integration into regional trade agreements, improvements in foreign reserve levels, and strengthened ties with global institutions have created an environment where discussions about rate stabilization and reform are happening more openly, leading communities to believe that something bigger may be building behind the scenes. Yet, it's essential to clarify that none of this confirms an RV. These are interpretations, comments, analyses, and circulating claims, not official announcements. Still, the emotional response has been intense because when multiple analysts highlight similar patterns and the timing aligns with real CBI upgrades, it creates a sense of urgency that pushes people to look deeper. Whether the alleged leak is exaggerated, misunderstood, or genuinely reflective of internal planning remains to be seen. But the conversation it has started is now impossible to ignore, and if you want to stay updated with every major shift, make sure you keep watching, because the next part of this unfolding situation reveals how these claims may be connected to actual recent actions inside Iraq's financial system. As the discussion intensifies across if you haven't yet liked the video or subscribed, analysts began dissecting how the alleged never miss critical updates and Delta's hinted rate signal aligns or clash with the sequence of steps the CBI has taken over the last several months. And that's where things start getting even more interesting, because, according to several observers, the CBI's recent push for modernization, international compliance, and digital transformation appears to follow the same roadmap financial institutions typically use. Before adjusting monetary mechanisms, even if the adjustments are modest, experimental, or purely internal testing. This is where viewers need to understand the deeper context. Iraq has been undergoing a significant economic cleanup that includes tighter control of dollar outflow, enhanced anti-corruption mechanisms, expansion of electronic payment tools, and integration of updated regulatory standards, all of which are essential prerequisites for any credible currency reform discussion. Analysts reviewing the alleged leak pointed out that if such a document truly exists, it would logically relate to system evaluations or rate simulations rather than a confirmed, finalized RV event. Yet the emotional reaction comes from the possibility that those simulations might indicate preparations for larger-scale adjustments in the future. Delta's hint, as interpreted by viewers, suggested that he saw or heard of a temporary rate fluctuation appearing in isolated banking streams, not in public forex channels, and he emphasized that such fluctuations are typically part of internal bank testing or data synchronization events, which again doesn't prove that a public rate change is imminent, but does reinforce the idea that something operational is indeed happening behind closed doors. Meanwhile, some financial researchers traced Iraqi government statements from the past weeks showing a renewed push to stabilize the market, empower local industries, and enhance Iraq's position in regional trade, all of which naturally influence currency policy debates. The timing of these statements, paired with new systems being installed in multiple banks and ongoing coordination with international monetary organizations, has fueled speculation that the country could be preparing for a more flexible long-term exchange rate environment. Another key detail that analysts highlighted is the global market context. Oil demand patterns, regional investment flows, and the increasing strategic importance of Iraq in Middle Eastern economic restructuring all create an environment where Iraq benefits from a more robust, transparent financial system. This means any internal rate testing, if genuine, could be a reflection of preparations for broader market integration rather than a sudden surprise revaluation. Still, the dinar community remains hyper-focused on the possibility of a significant shift, especially after weeks of subtle but consistent developments that analysts such as Frank26 have described as foundational steps rather than accidental coincidences. Some have even suggested that Iraq may be positioning itself to reduce reliance on the dollar gradually, which historically requires stronger internal banking capability and stable local currency mechanisms. The combination of these observations makes people wonder whether the alleged leak is part of a staged transition or simply noise amplified by the community's long-standing hopes. What remains undeniable is that interest has reached a new peak. Discussions across forums, social platforms, and investor circles are increasing rapidly as people try to connect these dots. But while excitement grows, every analyst with professional experience continues to warn against assuming any guaranteed outcome, because financial reforms often evolve slowly and internal rate tests, if they occur, often serve logistical purposes rather than forecasting public changes. The most important takeaway for viewers is this: stay informed, evaluate evidence critically, separate official facts from circulating claims, and understand the broader economic landscape shaping these rumors. Keep watching, because the last part of this script dives deeper into what dinar holders must realistically monitor next, according to analysts studying Iraq's ongoing
as we move into
the final breakdown. It's crucial to understand what all of this actually means for dinar holders who are trying to navigate between excitement, skepticism, and the desire for clarity, because analysts consistently emphasize that while leaks, hints, and rumors spark discussions, the true indicators of any approaching shift come from official CBI steps, government economic policies, systemic upgrades, and international financial movements, all of which should be monitored more closely than any individual commentary or circulating screenshot. Experts who follow Iraq's monetary policy insist that if a meaningful rate adjustment were to come, whether gradual, modest, or significant, it would almost certainly follow a predictable chain of events: increased coordination with international financial institutions, enhanced control of parallel market activity, stronger foreign reserve positions, and widespread modernization of national banking platforms, much of which we are currently seeing, though none of it confirms an RV on its own. What many viewers need to understand is that the presence of internal rate testing, if true, does not automatically signal a public change, Banks around the world regularly run simulations to test liquidity, exchange systems, and regulatory updates long before any public shift occurs. However, the reason the community is so energized right now is because these internal tests appear to be aligning with other meaningful developments inside Iraq, including the expansion of digital payment methods, crackdowns on informal currency channels, increased transparency demands from regulators, and the government's attempts to position Iraq as a more stable hub for regional investment. Analysts repeatedly stress that Iraq's trajectory is moving upward, but the pace is still determined by political stability, global economic conditions, and the readiness of domestic institutions. In this sense, the alleged RV leak becomes a symbolic catalyst. It forces people to ask bigger questions. Is Iraq preparing for deeper integration into global markets? Is the CBI laying groundwork for gradual exchange rate reform? Are system upgrades hints of future changes or simply routine maintenance? And most importantly, what should investors realistically expect in the coming months? The consensus among responsible analysts is that viewers should watch for specific actions, official announcements from the CBI, continued strengthening of foreign reserves, policy alignment with IMF standards, a measurable reduction in dollar dependency, and ongoing system updates across Iraq's banking sector. These are the real indicators that matter. Rumors can ignite discussion, but structural reform is what drives actual outcomes. Still, the psychological impact of the alleged leak cannot be ignored. It has reactivated worldwide attention on the IQD narrative, brought analysts into deeper collaboration, and pushed many people to revisit their long-term expectations. Whether or not the document is authentic, it has undeniably reshaped the week's discussion and reminded the community of how quickly sentiment can shift. As this story develops, the key is staying grounded, staying informed, and avoiding assumptions not supported by official policy actions. And with that in mind, if you want to stay ahead of every verified update, every major announcement, and every analyst breakdown, make sure you subscribe right now and turn on all notifications so you never miss a critical moment in this evolving situation. Your engagement helps this channel deliver accurate, timely, well-researched information. So, hit that like button, share the video, and drop your thoughts in the comments below because your voice keeps this community strong and informed.